Hi, in this recording, we're going to be installing Active Directory domain services on the server we just created. So first off, we go ahead and sign into your server. And then we want to go ahead and click on Configure the Server in the Server Manager. If you don't have that up, you can always click on the Start button and click on Server Manager. And when we click on Configure Local Server, just click on the computer name here. And that will give you this prompt that you can click on Change and type in the computer name that you want. Here, we're going to do DC01 because it's my first domain controller. Click OK. It's going to say that we must restart the computer, but you can always do that later if you are going to do anything else to the computer before you restart. So first off, always want to make sure that Windows updates are all good to go before you start doing any sort of feature or role installs, just because that can conflict. So just click on Checkup for updates, have it run for a little bit, and see if there's any more to install. All right, so once that's complete, then we should be able to close that out. And then let's go ahead and restart computer, and that way we'll get the new computer name. And then go ahead and sign back in. All right, and then once that comes back up, go ahead and click on Manage, Add Roles and Features. And one of the things that if you're going to be creating multiple servers and computers joined to this domain, you do want to make sure that your IP address has a static IP address. And so you can do that now, or if you're just going to be doing a lab environment with just one DC, just because it's going to be pointing to itself for its DNS, you don't necessarily have to have a static IP address. So in this case, I will be adding more servers and computers to my lab environment. So here I'm going to go ahead and just cancel first, and we'll set our static IP address before we continue. So just click on your network icon here, Network Internet Settings, go to the Ethernet, which is what I have connected. Go to IP address assignment, edit that, drop down, have manual versus DHCP, turn on IPv4, and then go ahead and put in your IP address that associates to what you need. And then type in that IP address that is associated with your network. And then go ahead and put in your DNS server, and it will change to itself once we install the domain services. So then we can go ahead and close out of that. To validate that we have the right IP address, you can go to your terminal and then type in ipconfig. There we go. Everything looks hunky-dory here. And then check your DNS. You can put a /all on it. And I had my mouse covered it, so I'll just show you. /all there. So there it'll show you your, where is it? There, the DNS servers right there. So once that's good to go, let's go ahead and go click on Manage, Add Roles. Next, we want a role-based or feature installation. Make sure DC01 is installed or is selected. Then we're going to go ahead and click on Active Directory Domain Services. Make sure Include Management Tools is installed or is checkmarked. Add Features, DNS. Make sure it's checked. Add Features. Here it's just warning about a static IP address. We already set that, so we're good to go. We click on Cancel. Or sorry, Continue, not Cancel. Next through that, keep going, and then Install. All right, so once it's completed and it says installation is succeeded, then you want to go ahead and click on close. And then on the top right here, you've got the notifications flag and a little warning. So here we can actually promote the server to a domain controller. So click on that link. Here we're going to create a new forest. We have no forests created, and this is our very first one. And then you want to go ahead and put in your entire root domain that you're going to be using. So in my case, I have a domain that I've purchased, and I want to use a subdomain instead of the full top domain that I've purchased. So I'm going to use corp, and I'm going to use my domain, which is Cloud ID Forge. And it's preferred not to use .local. It used to be the standard to use .local on your offline infrastructure or your on-prem infrastructure, and then have your routable domains as being in the cloud. But for using Cloud Connect to connect to Entra or things of that nature, not using that .local is preferred. So you want to use a routable domain or top-level domain versus the .local. So in this case, we're using a .com because that's what I purchased. So click on next. And then here, once this loads, you do want to make sure that you use the highest functional levels for both your forest and your domain that you can. If there's a particular reason why you need a lower functional level, then use that. But if you don't have a particular reason, just stay with the latest ones. And once this loads, you can do the drop down and see what options you have for these. All right, so now you can see if you drop down these drop downs, then you can see what versions they have here. And now we're going to go ahead and put in a password for our directory services restore mode. So if you have to do any sort of recovery for the domain or the domain services, then this is the password you will use in that recovery. So here you want to put in a pretty long and non-guessable password here. All right, so go next. And this, we're not going to create any sort of DNS delegation. We're just going to create a new one. So just click on next here. And this is going to ask you to put in your NetBIOS domain name. So this is one of your shorthand names that get sent across the network. So here we're just going to use corp. That'll be fine. Or we could you can adjust this to be SIFcorp maybe. Go next. If you have particular reasons why you need to change these directories to another drive, do that here. Sometimes people do it for backup purposes or performance purposes, but in this case, I don't really care so much, so I'm going to just leave this on the C drive. That's going to ask you to review your selection, make sure everything is good to go. In my case, it is, so let's click on next. It's going to do a quick prerequisite check here, and then once it check marks everything, and if there's no errors, then we could go ahead and start the installation. Okay, everything is good to go here. So we're just going to go ahead and click on install. All right, so once it's done installing, it will go ahead and restart your machine. Once it's done rebooting, go ahead and sign back in and just use your local administrator password, which has been transferred to the domain admin password here. All right, so once it's back up and running, we can check. We'll see some of the services come up here. And you can double check that DNS is running as well by just going to Tools, DNS. We can see that it is installed. And we can also just double check by right-clicking on your server here, DC01. We can just make sure that the forwarding is working okay as well. We can go to Properties. And when that pops up, we can click on Forwarders. And yes, so that IP address we put in before we installed Directory Services was used as a default forwarder. And if you need to change that, you can totally do that here. Just click edit here and you can put additional forwarders there. In my case, it's still a DNS server that's on the network and it resolved correctly and it's reachable. And you can see that we have internet by the little icon down there. We can also look at the domain by opening up directory or Active Directory users and computers. And we can see that we've got users, we have computers, domain controllers. And if you go view advanced features, you can see some of the system property or system OUs, and everything looks good and healthy. That's how you install Active Directory domain services on a Windows server.